Hello, today we're going to talk about drying and evaporation. These processes are mostly related with the preservation or conservation of food products. These treatments are intended to extend the shelf life of food products and, why not, producing new products. Drying and evaporation are two processes that are related with the removal of the water from the product. Drying is one of the oldest preservation processes that it is usually performed on solid materials. In most cases, the drying process involves the removal of small amount of water from the solids at temperature below its boiling point. And evaporation is another kind, because it is usually used to remove large amount of water from the solutions, and in this case we are talking about solution in evaporation, but this removal occurs due to the boiling of the solution. Evaporation is used mostly to concentrate fruits, to increase the solid content and to remove the water content. During evaporation, many changes happen to the food, because many changes in texture of the food, in aroma, and even the color is changed during evaporation because of the high temperature. Drying process is used in many foods such as coffee, milk powder, fruits and vegetables. Even the evaporation is used for many products, for example, in milk, starch, coffee, vegetables concentrates, etc. Drying. Well, drying process of foods is an ancient practice that have been adapted for preserving food products and beyond their natural shelf life. The traditional solar drying methods are with a direct exposure to the sun of the products is used for many years, but nowadays with these methods are found some disadvantages, and this is the reason that new methods are beginning to be used, such as hot air drying, spray drying, lyophilization, infrared, microwave, etc. Well, for food conservation or food preservation, there are numerous methods or processes that are used, and one of those is drying process that is still used nowadays. Drying is a process by which water is removed from the food by vaporization, and the reducing or the removal of this water is associated with some changes on the food, mostly some degradation of some reactions on food. When I say reaction, I mean chemical reaction, enzymatic reaction, or just a reaction of microbial nature. The drying rate is mostly influenced by transfer mechanisms such as food and drying air pressure, air temperature and air velocity, moisture distribution in the product, and the thickness and exposed surface for drying. Thickness is important because if the product for drying are too thick, in that case the process is very difficult, and the coefficient of drying may be too low. Usually, drying process involves the use of heat to vaporize the water present in the food, but also to remove the water vapor from the food surface. In this case, drying, it combines heat and mass transfers for which energy must be supplied. The main objectives of drying include preserving foods and increasing their shelf life by reducing the water content and water activity. This is related more with the pathogenic microorganism, because if the moisture or the water activity is in high levels, this may be create good conditions for the development of microorganisms that might spoil the food product. Avoid the need for use a refrigerator system for transport and during the storage. Well, refrigeration system is an expensive way or method to preserve or to create such conditions during the transporting of this food. This is the reason that with drying process or drying methods we can avoid the use of these systems, which is more used in developed countries. Reduce the space requirements for storage and transport. Well, drying process reduce the volume of the food products, and this is the reason that even the space during the storage or transport is very reduced. To expand the range of foods with different flavor and texture. Well, during the drying process again, many changes might happen to the product. For example, we mentioned before the color, which is changed, but many flavors might be exploded from this product, or because of the changes that might happen to the product, will give us another kind of product or foodstuff with these good flavors or good texture. Although drying is an alternative method to extend the shelf life of products, and also helps to facilitate the storage condition even during the storage of this product, but even during the transportation. Well, it is fact that usually the food products that are dehydrated, their quality must be drastically reduced, and it's using these methods is in interest to minimize chemical changes during these treatments on the food. Chemical changes, when we say chemical changes, I mean enzymatic or non-enzymatic browning, or just to maximize nutrient retention and other processes that might affect the quality of the product. One is the early effect observed when drying foods is made, and this is the shrinkage, which may affect to the structure and the texture of the food product. During drying methods, the loss of water from the foods is a process that needs lots of energy, and drying involves a considerable energy consumption, such as 20 to 25% of the energy used by the food processing industry, or 10 to 25% of the energy used in all industries in developed countries. Well, energy together with time efficiency represent one of the most significant design and operation parameters in food processing. Recently, or the latest use, there have been many advances in drying technology. For example, including pre-treatment techniques, which are used with the aim to accelerate the drying process, and this acceleration helps to enhance the quality and improve the safety of these products that are going to dry with these drying methods. Besides, these also help to decrease the energy needs because of the accelerating of this process. So short time needs less energy. Based on different operating principles, dryers are classified into several types. For example, discontinuous functioning and continuous functioning, or direct heating and indirect heating. Well, these types of dryers have some qualities that are different from each other. For example, with discontinuous functioning, it needs hand labor during the process, but hand labors means high costs, so it's not so good if we talk about high costs. But the other thing is that they may have a greater variation product quality from batch to batch, so this might be not secure. But for these type of dryers, is more economical for smaller capacities, up to 5 tons per day. But if we talk about continuous functioning, is more economical if we talk about large quantity of material. Direct heating and indirect heating. The material during direct heating is placed in contact with the hot gases that provide the vaporization of the water. But in indirect heating, the food is separated from the heat source by a physical barrier such as a metal surface. Well, methods for drying are many, but let's mention the most important methods that are used in food industry. Solar drying. Well, the energy source for this method is the sun. Well, this is a very cheap drying method and it has many drawbacks because of the contamination sources, like contamination from insects or birds or other animals, and it is also strongly affected by weather conditions. Well, these conditions may affect the quality of the product and because of the food spoilage. The solar greenhouses may minimize these problems. They are very efficient and reach higher temperature due to the greenhouse effect, and besides, the food are protected from the contaminations. There are two types of solar drying. The first one is direct solar drying, when the product is exposed to solar radiation, and the other one is indirect solar drying. In this case, the sun's energy is collected by collectors and used to heat the air that will be used for drying the foods. For centuries, fruits and vegetables have used the first type of solar drying, the direct sunlight, when the products are exposed in open air. Hot air convective drying. These methods in which hot air is used for drying foods have a considerable importance. These include drying in chambers with trays or in tunnels equipped with conveyor. The hot air drying is still extensively employed as a food preservation method. Convective drying is considered as a highly destructive operation due to shrinkage, discoloration, and loss of nutrients. Moreover, hot air drying is usually undesirable, long-lasting, and energy-consuming process for food preservation. And one of the recommended ways to minimize this harmful impact of the convective drying is the application of hybrid methods. Spray drying. Well, this method is a widely used technique to convert a liquid state into a powder form. It is used for solutions that goes through an atomizer and spray to divide the material into droplets. The quality of spray-dried microcapsules is quite dependent on processing parameters of the spray dryer and properties of composition of the feed solution. The atomizer is essential because it determines the size of the droplets and condition the efficiency of the process. Spray drying has proven to be an effective technology in protecting bioactive compounds and probiotics. Lyophilization is another method for drying, also is called freeze drying or freeze dehydration. In this case, the water is first frozen and then sublimated under special conditions of pressure and temperature. Well, lyophilization is slower and with higher costs. Mostly in industry, this method is used for the dehydration of foods, for example, the dehydration of mushrooms or herbs and spices, fruit juices, etc. Lyophilization is usually preferred to convert heat-sensitive materials into powder form. However, long processing times, low production throughput, and possible chill injury associated with freezing are considerable disadvantages of this process. Infrared drying. The solid food is exposed to a source of infrared heating in this method. Here, most of the solids have a low thermal conductivity, and the rate of heat conduction to the interior is very slow. With the application of infrared radiation primarily intend to the surface treatments of the food. There are many advantages over conventional drying under similar conditions. The first and the most important disadvantages is that the heating of the material is done more rapidly and uniformly without heating the surrounding air. In this case, the combine with hot air pre-drying, infrared heating may save 20% of drying time compared to use just only infrared drying. Microwave drying is another method which provides a high heating rate and does not originate alteration on the surface of the food. The industrial microwave treatment is limited because of the high costs. It is used industrially just for low moisture foods or just for a final stage of the dehydration process. Microwave drying is an efficient method for post-harvest processing because it has low energy consumption and high product quality. Compared to convective drying, microwave can be advantageous due to its volumetric heating and reduced processing time. Overheating of particles and undesired degradation of bioactive compounds may happen because of the microwave heating. Microwave heating has a high cost, and this is the reason that for eliminate these costs is much better if this method is combined with other method for best quality of the product. Radiofrequency drying Radio frequency heating addresses directly the product so that its interior is heated faster than its surface. The water is released without overheating or dehydration of the surface. In this method, it is allows the reaching very low humidity level of to 1 till 2% with minimal impact on quality. Osmotic dehydration, it is based on osmotic process. It is generally used for partial removal of the water from fruits and vegetables which are immersed in a sugar or salt solution. The water loss rate is initially high, but after 1 to 2 hours it is very much reduced, so that it can take days until it reaches the equilibrium. Typically it requires 4 to 6 hours to reduce the food to 50% of its fresh weight. For fruits, mostly are used solution with sugar, and the sugar used mostly is the sucrose. For vegetables are used salt solution, normally is sodium chloride. Combined processes. Conventional drying methods include solar drying, osmotic dehydration, vacuum drying, hot air drying, etc. Most of these drying techniques involve longer drying time and high amount of energy, resulting in poor quality of dried products. In recent studies, there have been significant development in using novel techniques. Some typical combined drying processes include convection and microwave, convection and osmotic dehydration, convection and infrared radiation, etc. These combined methods are more efficient for drying methods, even because they preserve the quality of the food, but they are less expensive even for the producer.